Strowman beating Dean Ambrose also happened on the show. Now, Strowman obviously wreaking havoc to get his heat back from the loss at the hands of Brock Lesnar at the pay-per-view last Sunday. Him killing Kurt Hawkins on Raw was pretty great too, before beating Dean Ambrose clean. Now, he beat Ambrose here. Strowman will face Seth Rollins on next week's Raw, which is why I've said Strowman, Cesaro, and Sheamus taking on the reuniting Shield at TLC I think would be the best option. Now, Roman Reigns is coming off the biggest win of his career to date over, the win over Undertaker might be bigger, but anyway, he's coming off a pretty major victory over John Cena at the pay-per-view. So what do you do with him? That's the question. Like, Brock's gone, Cena's gone, which is why the Cena feud should have been more than one match, but Cena might be gone now for another 3 or 4 months per usual. It would have been cool to see that culminate in another match at TLC, but that's not happening. So to take him from singles competition en route to challenging Brock Lesnar for the belt, only to put him right back with the Shield, it seems kind of counterproductive, but everyone loves the Shield, so maybe they're going to try to get him over using, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, which is fine. The timing works out. We're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of when they debuted anyway. TLC was the show that they had their first match at 5 years ago, one of the best matches of 2012 against Ryback and Team Hell No, and that awesome TLC match. But the thing is that Team Hell No and Ryback were formidable threats to the Shield. The Miztourage is not. So on Raw this week, we had Roman Reigns on Miz TV, like I said earlier. And Roman brought up Jason Jordan and how he came close to winning the belt had it not been for the Miztourage. And Jordan and Matt Hardy teamed up because Jeff Hardy's now out hurt, which sucks. And they beat the Miztourage. So anyway, Roman Reigns and The Miz had a match later on in the night. And I figured that because Roman brought up Jason Jordan and the fact that, Miz, you couldn't beat him clean or whatever without interference, that means that feud is not yet over. I could be wrong. I would keep that feud going as opposed to putting The Miz and the Miztourage up against the Shield. But again, that's just me. So Roman beat Miz later on in the night, which is fine. Like, having the champion lose is not ideal, but they are building to an Intercontinental Championship match next week between Roman and Miz. So after this match, the Miztourage and the Miz attack Roman Reigns, lay him out, come back in the ring, hit him over the head with a chair. They might have done the concerto. I might be mistaken. They haven't done that move in forever, so I might be wrong there. But they did taunt Roman Reigns and stand over his broken down body doing the Shield pose, which would mean that they will be doing Shield versus Miztourage at TLC. Now, we were all up in arms when everyone thought they might be doing it at SummerSlam, and it's just not a big enough match to bring the Shield back for. Their first match back in 5 years should be a marquee. It should be the main event of that pay-per-view, especially with Brock being gone seemingly until November or January or December or whenever the hell he'll be back. That match has to main event the pay-per-view. There's no question. But the Miztourage, like we've seen Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel get beaten 2 minutes by the likes of Jason Jordan and other people on frickin' main event of all shows in the past number of years. Why would they, of all people, be threats to Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns, let alone individually? Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas against Dean Ambrose would be a mismatch, let alone against all three of those guys. You know what I'm saying? So I know they attacked Roman on Raw. They were made to look like threats. Miz is one thing. He's getting back to where he once was on SmackDown as a upper mid-card guy, and he always kind of has been, but to being a more dominant, aggressive heel, which is great. But I can't take Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas seriously. They're lackeys. That's exactly what they are. They're not equals to The Miz. They're not the Shield. They're not even what the Wyatt family were. I mean, I guess the Wyatt family, they were kind of lackeys too, alongside Bray Wyatt, but they're not the Shield. The Shield were all equals. It's The Miz, and then several notches down is Axel and Dallas. So that's not the match that I would do. Not saying I don't want to see the Shield back together, because if you don't bring the Shield back together, what do we even do with all those guys involved? Do another Ambrose and Rollins and Sheamus and Cesaro rematch? That would be pretty cool. You know, I was thinking, we were talking last week with Jamie Lee Mack here on the show. We were talking that we could do a Fatal 4-Way TLC match with the Hardy Boys and the Club and Cesaro and Sheamus and Ambrose and Rollins. But of course, the Hardy Boys are out of commission for a while with Jeff being hurt, so that's out of the question. But I would definitely do something with the Shield, if not just Ambrose and Rollins against Cesaro and Sheamus themselves. They have to continue that feud because those teams work well together. And if you don't continue that feud, then it's going to be Reigns, Ambrose, and Rollins, the whole Shield versus Miztourage, which it's a total mismatch. You can't do the match. You just can't. I mean, I guess they can, but they shouldn't, is what I'm saying. I know they teased it on Raw, and I had read something from the Wrestling Observer newsletter this past week that they haven't yet made up their mind on what they want to do, and there's no plan set in stone for TLC as of right now, which is good. The pay-per-view's not for another month, so they have time to figure out what the hell they're going to do. But like I said earlier, Braun Strowman taking on the Shield alongside Sheamus and Cesaro makes the most sense to me, because Cesaro and Sheamus are already feuding with Ambrose and Rollins. Strowman beat Ambrose this week on Raw. He's facing Rollins next week, and the history he has with Roman is well documented. So it's already there. It books itself. It makes sense. And the match would be way better. Like, if you don't do that, who do you have Braun face? Apollo Crews in the kickoff? Like, who the hell cares? They don't really have top-tier baby faces right now, especially with Balor being tied up again in the feud with Bray Wyatt going into TLC. So that's what I would do. They could start building off that coming this weekend Raw with Rollins taking on Braun Strowman, and after Rollins gets beat, maybe Roman comes out and saves his ass. Now, Roman looked like a dick, Ambrose and Rollins looked like dicks for not saving Roman from the beatdown from the Miztourage on Raw this week. But then again, Roman didn't save either Ambrose or Rollins when they were being beat down by Sheamus and Cesaro leading into SummerSlam, so consider it fair game. And you also have to consider what the timetable is for Cesaro's return, if he's even going to be out at all. Like, the injury that he suffered at No Mercy was pretty brutal. He must have had to have extensive dental surgery or work done, whatever, on his mouth to fix that shit up, because that looked pretty fucking brutal. He was out there on Raw this week. I don't think he opened his mouth once. I don't know if he has to have his jaw wired shut or what. I don't think so, because it's just it's the teeth. It has nothing to do with the jaw. But he didn't say anything. He didn't really do anything. He was out there, though. He could be wrestling on this weekend's live events. I have no idea. But I hope he's back soon. The pay-per-view's not for another month. So you can keep him out of the ring and bring him back in time for TLC if he does have to stay out for a little longer. But knowing Cesaro and the fact that he got through the match anyway when he was bleeding, from the mouth extensively during that match on Sunday, I think he'll be just fine and be back sooner than expected if he's going to be out at all. So that shouldn't really be an issue. But like I said, Shield versus Braun Strowman, Cesaro, and Sheamus books itself. It makes the most sense. I would pay good money to see that main event at TLC. Now, the match is more about the Shield's reunion than the match itself, and I realize that might be their mindset if they do the Shield versus Miztourage, but they have to know the match logically would have to be over in like 2 minutes, because Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel are jokes. They're lackeys. They're supposed to be not even bodyguards, just a little sidekicks for The Miz. So having them be viewed as equal threats, as credible challengers, credible competitors, as equals to the Shield's Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins is laughable.